Tanks were a revolutionary weapon of World War I. They were designed to break the stalemate of trench warfare on the Western Front. Tanks were a terrifying sight to enemies and a welcome one to friendly forces. They are featured prominently in the upcoming video game Battlefield 1, and it looks like we'll play as part of a tank crew in the game's campaign, judging by one of the game's recent trailers. We often look at tanks as cold, lifeless machines, but they were manned by living, breathing people. What was it like for those inside? That's the purpose of today's video. This background video is from the Battlefield 1 Alpha, thanks to Duquesne23. Life inside of a tank was rough. It was a cramped existence. Light tanks like the tiny Renault FT held a crew of 2, while heavy tanks like the British tank Mark V had a crew of 8. Getting along with one another was made even more difficult by the conditions inside of the tank. Temperatures in tanks could often reach a blistering 120 degrees Fahrenheit. That's nearly 49 degrees Celsius. On top of this, the crew was forced to breathe the toxic air inside the cabin, a nauseating mixture of carbon monoxide from the engine, cordite from the guns, and a variety of other smells. There were no real latrines on board, and crew members often suffered from motion sickness and vomited. The combination of all these factors often resulted in headaches, giddiness, breathlessness, mental confusion, collapse, and even unconsciousness, according to a post-war medical journal. Unlike modern tanks, tanks in World War I did not have air filtration systems, so crew members had to put on gas masks in the event of an attack. The noise inside the tank was also deafening, so communication was problematic. Early tanks were also prone to mechanical failure, and often as many tanks were lost to these issues as were lost to enemy fire. Aside from threats from the inside, tank crews also worried about exterior threats, like artillery and other anti-tank weaponry. Germany faced the greatest threat from tanks and thus developed several weapons to fight these crawling demons. Several are featured in Battlefield 1, including the bunched charge anti-tank grenade, the Mauser T-Gewehr, and armor-piercing rounds. Even conventional weapons could cause issues. When bullets struck the tank's armor, metal splinters could be created, which posed a serious risk to the eyes of crew members. To counter this, many tankers wore special headgear which restricted their already poor view even further. And the death of a tanker was not glamorous either. Wartime accounts include examples of tank crews dying from artillery explosions and the associated shrapnel and concussive force. Tanks were also loaded with highly flammable gasoline, which could burn out the tank if its fuel tanks were set ablaze. All too often, early tanks were also coffins, as crews were often ordered not to abandon a defensible vehicle should it fall into enemy hands. The crew of the British tank, nicknamed Fray Bentos, was extraordinarily lucky. In 1917, their tank became stuck in a crater and rolled onto its side, rendering its primary guns useless. For 72 hours in no man's land, the tank endured rifle and machine gun fire, grenades, artillery, and dynamite. Enemy troops were literally crawling all over the tank but could not get inside. A German soldier even managed to throw a grenade into the tank, but the crew of the Fray Bentos managed to toss it back out before it exploded. The crew was forced to ration food and drink water from the radiator to stay hydrated. Temperatures dropped to below freezing at night. Yet only one crew member was killed in the 3-day assault on the tank. During a lull in the fighting, the remaining crew managed to crawl back through the mud to friendly lines. This is a similar situation to what we see in one of Battlefield 1's trailers and the tank Black Bess. So will Battlefield 1 show us this brutal side of tank warfare in World War I? What do you think about the men who fought inside of these relatively untested and unproven machines? And what do you think about Battlefield 1's use of tanks so far? Tell me in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. As always, thanks for watching.